So let's break down the two campaign strategies right now. I'd like to welcome in Michael Starr Hopkins, Democratic strategist, as well as CEO of Northern Star Strategies, and Matt Klink, a Republican strategist. Gentlemen, thank you both for your time. Matt, I would like to start with you. We have these two campaigns facing off in Eau Claire. How much of an indicator do you think these events will be for the Trump campaign's appeal for other swing states?
Well, look, I think that your lead up to our segment hits it right. There are really only about 4 or 5 states that are going to determine the next election, and Wisconsin is one of them. Pennsylvania is another one. Arizona, Georgia. I mean, the handful of states that existed in 2020 are going to be the same in 2024. And what each campaign is doing right now is they're probing and trying to find out what arguments are going to work best. I will give the Harris and Vance ticket credit. They're experiencing they're high right now. They're new. They're getting introduced. I think that they're going to go into the convention. They will probably be ahead of the Trump Vance ticket when they come out of that convention. The challenge then is in the slog between then and the 5th of November to see who's most effective at getting their messaging out. And that's where this campaign will be won or lost. But I'm glad that we have now a full ticket on the Democratic side, and it's going to be a really, really tight campaign, as it should be through November 5th.
And we know both of these campaigns are making so many stops. Michael, this question for you. This is, just one stop for the Harris team. They'll also be in Michigan. We know that's another toss-up state. That will come before nightfall. How important is it to ride this momentum out of the major VP announcement that came?
Continuing enthusiasm and driving up excitement is really important for Democrats. What we've seen is since President Biden stepped off the ticket, a real push for Democrats to not only bring young people, African Americans, and women back into the fold, but really bring in unlikely voters and people who were considering sitting this one out. When you look at the turnout for this event in Wisconsin, almost 30,000 people. They're talking about a line of 1.5 miles. This is exactly what Democrats need right now. It's this type of enthusiasm that it's going to take to beat Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. And so as a Democrat, it's really nice to see.
So Matt, let's go back to you, because we are seeing J.D. Vance is now mirroring all of these campaign stops that the Harris-Walz ticket is making. Is that the right move, kind of showing up in the same place at the same time?
Well, for right now, it is. Sure. Look, what J.D. Vance is going to do, vice presidents play attack dog. They are not going to win or lose the election for the top of the ticket, but they can be successful in going after the other side. And I think what you're seeing J.D. Vance doing is trying to frame the narrative of an ultra-progressive ticket of Kamala Harris, who is a San Francisco liberal with a notable record that the mainstream media refuses to cover, coupled with a very progressive liberal Democratic mayor of Minneapolis, or governor, of Minnesota, who was notably weak during the George Floyd riots when the city burned and he refused to call in the National Guard. So you're going to start to see these contrasts emerge, and this is where the battle will be fought over the next 3 months. But for right now, look, I think that it's fantastic that Kamala Harris and Governor Walz get to advance their messaging. I think it's going to make for a much more interesting and exciting campaign. And Michael, you're spot on. Democratic enthusiasm has caught up with Republican enthusiasm, and that's what we should all want in our elections. We want high voter turnout.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, Matt, absolutely. I'd like to hone in on something Matt said there, Michael, for your question, talking about this contrast. Let's talk about the contrast in messaging, though, from the Democrats. The Harris campaign, we know, will be in Phoenix and then Vegas this weekend. Right now they are in Wisconsin. How is the message going to change when they hit those states?
I don't think it will change. What you're going to hear Democrats talk a lot about is who's fighting for working families. While J.D. Vance was a venture capitalist and breaking up small businesses and blue collar jobs, all across the Rust Belt. Governor Walz was there not only serving as a teacher, as a football coach, but then as governor, making sure that people who couldn't afford to go to college could, that children who were hungry could afford breakfast and lunch, that marijuana was legalized so that we didn't continue to lock people up for nonviolent offenses. Republicans have spent a lot of time talking about progressivism and how progressivism is bad. Well, progressives are who brought in Social Security, Medicaid, made sure that women were able to vote, and now are going to once again codify Roe versus Wade and make sure that women have autonomy over their body.
And Matt, I'd like
and
to
Nicole, real quick, the
go ahead.
Biden-Harris model is it now costs $1.25 for $100 or $125 for $100 bag of grocery. So who's really helping out the middle class?
Yeah.
It's not Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Well, Matt, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about strategy because we just heard in that clip at the top of the segment here, Senator Vance going on the attack, and we know that that may work for the base, but will that work for the more moderate voter, the swing voter, the crucial undecideds and independent voter? Are we going to see that strategy change, do you think?
Well, look, I think the two messages that we know are the most popular in this election are the economy and immigration, and abject failures on the Biden-Harris administration and on the immigration issue. One need only look at the 11 million people that have come across the border under the open border policy of Biden and Harris, and look at Governor Walz. He gave housing to illegal immigrants in Minnesota. He won't give them to American veterans, but he will give them to people who are in this country illegally. So again, it's a question of priorities, and progressive policies all work well until they run out of other people's money to spend.
All right, and so I want to end this, and to make it fair, Michael, we will end with you also talking about strategy. I know that Walz has kind of offered his own line of attack on J.D. Vance, saying that he's suggesting he's part of the elite because he has an Ivy League education, he has Silicon Valley ties. Do you think that is a smart strategy? Are we going to maybe see Tim Walz, who's kind of being branded as this nice guy, have to stop being a nice guy and really go on a more direct attack?
Look, Governor Walz is Minnesota nice, and I think it's working really well. Problem for Republicans is that the American voters know who Donald Trump is. They know who J.D. Vance is, and their ceiling is built in. They know that Donald Trump doesn't pay his bills. They know that Donald Trump continues to profit off of the American economy while the American workers don't see those profits. And so as voters get ready to go to the ballot boxes, they have a choice. Do they want someone who's going to fight for them like Governor Walz and Vice President Harris, or do they want someone who's going to profit off of them and lead them to another million Americans dead and an economy in the tank with J.D. Vance and Donald Trump? That's a choice they're going to get to make in November.
And we will hear what the candidates have to say in a bit. Michael Starr Hopkins, Matt Klink, really great discussion. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks a million, Nicole. Bye-bye.